You're listening to 4UR 101.5 FM. It's the Morning Magazine. 8:35 is the time. And as I mentioned, Morning Magazine, we've cut in for a special segment into the breakfast show. We will return to it shortly. But in the meantime, we have the CEO of Unity Water, John Black, on the line. John Black, how are you?
Oh, good morning. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you.
You've issued a press release and it states ice water. It's got a few things there. Can you explain what's happening?
Yes,
it's a big announcement.
The Unity Water Board has decided to freeze water and sewage charges for next financial year. This is a consequence of the board listening to our customers, and we're also getting very strong messages from the new state government and our own councils that the community is finding it difficult to cope with cost of living increases. So we, although a new organisation, want to pass on the benefits of what we've achieved in terms of operational savings and pass those directly on to our customers.
John, if it's been identified by Unity Water that the community is really struggling with cost of living increases and those increases have already happened, doesn't Unity Water need to maybe even possibly look at reducing prices to then meet what the community can withstand?
Yeah, look, we've got to be careful of a few things here. That we can't compromise on our 24/7 service, both for water and critical sewage services. We can't compromise on the delivery of new capital works. We're still a growing region and we've got some deficiencies in our current network we need to address. And we can't compromise on the financial returns we provide to councils. We, on behalf of the councils, own and operate about $3 billion worth of infrastructure. We've got a very distributed network. It is very costly. But at the same time, we need to work hard on delivering savings, both from the capital point of view and, as I said, also operational savings, which we can pass on. But for us to actually reduce prices, it's going to be very hard. I mean, for this next year, we are absorbing increases in energy costs of over 20%. The impact of the carbon tax and so forth is very hard, but we are going to absorb all those increases because we are hearing from our customers. And as I said, we are getting also significant encouragement from the owner councils, and the government's made a lot of announcements about cost of living pressures as well, and we want to do our part.
John Black, you mentioned a couple of things that need to be taken into consideration with maintaining the price structure for the retail side of Unity Water. One of those you mentioned was a return to council. The last dividend returned was in excess of $75 million. What's the projected return for the next dividend payout to councils?
Yeah,
that was just Moreton Bay Regional Council, and still the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, that's right. That's approximately the figures, and our annual report for last year has obviously been published. Look, it'd be very similar going forward. As I said, we've got to maintain and not compromise on those important financial returns to councils. Unity Water is a big investment for the councils on behalf of their respective communities. So we need to keep providing those returns, and then obviously the council decides where they reinvest in the community with those returns.
Who decides the return amount? Is it the council? Is it Unity Water from a management perspective, or is it the board of Unity Water, or do all three parties sit in a room together and work out how much money is going to go back?
Yeah, the councils set up equivalent to a shareholders agreement and have a related dividend policy, if you like, or returns policy.
That's that participation agreement, is it?
Yeah, that's right. It's on our website, and the board ultimately decides what that is. We've got a few obligations that are very tight. The board doesn't have a lot of room to move on, and that's in terms of interest payments back to the council on the shareholder loans we have. But outside of that, it's the board operates as if we've got a highly competitive environment and drives down the costs in operating the business to make sure we can, firstly, obviously minimise the impact on the customers, but also at the same time be very conscious of providing those returns to the council.
Quest News has run a survey in relation to the upcoming council election, which is to be held on the 28th of April. One of the things that really hit hard on their radar was people were saying that the council needs to take back control of Unity Water in a bid to reduce water prices for the ratepayers. A couple of things there. Unity Water, alongside your counterparts in different areas of Queensland, is a product of the previous state government and their legislation that they put in place. the LNP government, which is now in power in Queensland, made some very big definitive statements leading up into the election as part of their campaign, and they said that the likes of Unity Water would be returned to their respective councils. Have you had any discussions with the LNP government, or has anybody from Unity Water had those discussions to find out what the future of Unity Water is?
No. And that is very much a matter for the government and the councils. We've got 850 or thereabouts staff who are very committed to making sure we continue to provide the critical service we do, regardless of what happens at the political level. But that is a matter for councils. It is a matter for the state government. It's not a matter for me to comment on.
So, John Black, would you then say, in light of that you're only aware of the same information that the general public is aware of in relation to what the future of Unity Water may be with the relationship with the LNP government?
That is correct. I've obviously read and have a lot of interest in what the government will decide, because, as you know, I have responsibility for leading this organisation at the moment. We're very proud of what we've achieved to date. It has been hard. As you've seen, the pricing watchdog only this week has come out and said we're actually undercharging, but that is an issue for us. We've got to realise for Unity Water, it's a big challenge running a huge asset base with relatively few customers, and we've got to maintain the services now and into the future to make sure we continue to invest in the network to make sure that our children and our children's children have this service provided to them.
John Black, talking about the future and Unity Water, what are some of the big, maybe exciting things that the Moreton Bay region can see that Unity Water's got on the board? What's some of the infrastructure that may be getting invested in? What's some of the inventive things that Unity Water may be doing and expecting to deliver to the Moreton Bay region?
Yeah, well, I can certainly provide a couple of quick examples for you. We're currently constructing an upgraded sewage treatment plant at Woodford. We're doing that concurrently with an almost identical plant up in Cooroy on the Sunshine Coast. We managed to bundle those projects together to deliver significant savings. But one of the things that's really interesting is that a lot of the costs associated with what we do, and particularly sewage treatment, is maintaining our compliance with the environment for the nutrient discharge in the waterways. So what we've been able to do now is convince that regulator, which was the previous Department of Environment Resource Management. We know the new government has changed.
Yeah, what's that now?
Oh, well, it's broken into three parts, so we're going to be obviously
a lot of conference calls, right?
Yeah, but this is a really important point, because what we've been able to do is convince the regulator that the point source nutrient load coming from our sewage treatment plants are only a small portion of the total nutrient loads in those waterways.
Is that right? So in your studies, what are the other things?
Well, it's the urban runoff.
Yeah.
It's the poor farming practices. It's the chook farms. It's those other things that the runoff into the rivers, the poor state of the riparian zones along the waterways. So what we've convinced the regulator to allow us to do, and we've got the approval now for both Coolum and Maleny, is to actually incorporate wetlands and reforestation in our treatment train. So instead of putting money into concrete and steel and building another power station to run it, we're actually going to try and prove that we can actually get a better whole of waterway outcome by doing this. And in this case, we've actually deferred around $60 million worth of expenditure to make this work. And we're working with the councils, the community groups, and everyone who's passionate about the environment to make sure that we can pull this off. I'm excited by it. I think everyone will be excited about this because we live in some of the most sensitive environmental areas in Australia and globally, you could argue. So we've got to be really, really conscious of this. We've got some huge challenges with some ageing infrastructure. We've got some challenges with dealing with the growth. But I'm very pleased to say that the Moreton Bay Council had prudently invested for the future, and we've got capacity now in certain areas so we can cope with that growth. And we've got a lot of the good things in the horizon for the future.
We had Councillor Gary Parsons on the air earlier, I think it was this week, and one of the things that came up is that I think it's the Donnybrook Meldale area, their sewage is actually shipped over onto Bribie Island through pipes and then dealt with over there. Is that something that's going to be, is it one of the things that you're looking at and could be addressed?
Yeah, well, we've got 18 sewage treatment plants servicing, 700,000 people or thereabouts. Now, in Melbourne, there's 2 sewage treatment plants servicing 4 million. We have got this distributed network, and we've got to be working now to see what is the most efficient way of providing this service. But it is very difficult with such a distributed network, with people living in very low density situations, and we've got to be mindful of that in an environmentally sensitive area. So to provide the service at least cost is difficult, but we have proven beyond reasonable doubt that sewage will pass through a political boundary. It doesn't stop at a boundary, and we can work out now, without those constraints, of what's the most effective way of dealing with it. And, make the use of the investment that previously the council had made and we're making now in sewage treatment plants in the network to see if we can actually squeeze more efficiencies out of it. We've got to get rid of some of the pump stations we've got. We've got nearly 900 pump stations. Over at Bribie Island, sometimes I feel like we've got a pump station for every customer. We've got to look at the network and see how can we do this more efficiently.
How old are some of those pump stations? Because even the technology of the physical pump station would have changed somewhat, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's one of our large projects we've done that's delivering efficiencies. We're putting a common system of what we call the control system over all our active assets, which enables us to have now one single control room. But what we're also able to do by putting this new technology, if you like, making the dumb network smart, is that we can now operate these pumps in the off-peak periods for power, for instance. We can also back up sewage into systems rather than have overflows. We can control it. So this is exciting stuff. It is new technology overlaying existing old dumb technology, if you like. So John, we need to do this,
Yeah, John, just with the last series of fairly serious floods that we've had, and we've had 2 lots of those over the last, same amount of years, but there's been reports come out that there had been issues with sewage, especially when there's a lot of water around. Is that being dealt with as well, is it?
Yeah, we've actually, look, I'm a big one for treating the cause, not the symptoms. Because, if we have so much encroachment and infiltration of stormwater into the sewage system that's not designed for it, we get these overflows. The system is designed to, if you like, have those overflows released at certain points, but it's not desirable.
So instead of ramping up the system to be able to cope with the water, keep the water out?
Correct. So, what we've found, if I use an example on the Sunshine Coast at the moment, we're doing work with just over 8,000 properties, and we're finding that 1 in 10 of those properties has got an illegal connection, inadvertently in most cases, to the sewer network. The new rainwater tank has been plumbed in, or the overflow of the tank's been plumbed into the sewer. We've got, people's overflow relief gullies in the backyard. Now underground, and the water is rushing straight in there when we have a storm event. We've got swimming pools connected to overflow swimming pools connected to the sewer network, which is all contributing to this lack of capacity in the sewer system when it rains, which is causing, as you know, a few areas where it overflows, which is unacceptable. So we need to fix it.
John Black, put your crystal ball on. You've put prices on hold. They're effectively being frozen for the next 12 months, the retail prices to the consumer in the Moreton Bay region. What do you see beyond that? Do you see prices being held within CPI, or do you see maybe even some more price freezes, say, in the next 5 years?
Look, I'd like to think that we can. We've got to work really hard here. As the watchdog has seen, we're currently undercharging. And, the investors in this business, the councils, want to make sure we provide that return to them. So we've got to make that fine balance. But what we need to do is keep working on operational efficiency savings to offset any of that requirement to provide those returns to the councils, or indeed meet our obligations. And that's the fine balance we have. But certainly we're hearing from the community that this cost of living pressure, we've got to do something about it, and we've got to do our part, and that's what we're trying to do. The board is very, very committed to keeping the prices as low as we can.
John Black, just one other thing. I believe your billing cycle's changed, and you've turned it into what you call a rolling billing cycle, so not everybody gets their water bill at the exact same time. We've had reports here at 4AUR 101.5 FM saying that a number of people have been getting their water bill in very close proximity to their rates bill, and it's quite a bit for a household to deal with. Is there anything that a household can do in relation to that?
Yeah, certainly. We appreciate that. It has been a rollout now where we're billing, as you're saying, on a rolling basis. So we're probably putting out about 5,000 accounts a day now related to a meter reading. And what that's enabled us to do is reduce our costs because we don't have a huge peak of 500,000 accounts going out in a week-long period, which causes overflows into call centres and so forth. So that's been an advantage. But what we do offer is genuine hardship payment plans and so forth, and we do invite all the customers in those situations to contact our call centre to make arrangements for those things. Because as I said, we are hearing from the customers that it is hard. Utility bills, all the other cost of living pressures. So if we can do anything to help, that's what we will do.
John Black, thank you very much for spending some time with our listeners, the CEO of Unity Water.
No problem. Thanks very much for having me.